friends, Amanda here. Welcome back to Handmade No Hallmark. Today I've got this fun, simple card featuring some stamping, a little bit of inking, and some fun inlay die cutting, and a really fun greeting from a new stamp set from Simon Says Stamp and CZ Designs. I hope you enjoy. Let's get into it. I'm going to be using the new Sassy Thankful stamp set from CZ Designs. This is a really fun stamp set. It's got lots of really great kind of quirky, cheeky Thanksgiving sentiments, as well as a couple of really great images that you can use with the greetings to kind of help round out your card. The first thing I wanted to do is I wanted to stamp my background. The background is kind of the focal point of my card today, as well as the inlay die cutting, and I really wanted to use the little images that come in this stamp set. So there's a little turkey, a fall leaf, and some acorns, and I wanted to use them as a kind of a background for my card. I really like doing this with small images that come in these large greeting stamp sets, and I think it's a fun way to kind of utilize those images in a fun way. I'm going to be using some Neenah Desert Storm cardstock today, as well as some khaki ink from Simon as well. I'm just going to go around and I'm going to arrange these three images all over my background to create a fun kind of pattern in the back, almost kind of creating my own pattern paper. Again, I really think this is a fun way to utilize some stamps and stretch out the products that you get. I'm going to speed through this portion of the video. There's nothing fancy going on here. I am just rearranging all of these images around the panel, starting in the top corner and kind of working my way down the card so I fill in the space as best I can. This is the best way I've figured out how to create an even pattern all the way across my card. If you wanted to, you could go in with some smaller images or any other kind of shapes or kind of really tiny images to fill in some of the empty spaces. I plan on using another stamp later on to create some more texture and interest for my kind of personalized pattern paper I'm creating here. I really think this khaki ink and the Desert Storm look really nice together. You could also do this with some VersaFine ink, which I'm going to show you here in a little bit, to create kind of a watermark look. I think that looks really nice on top of this khaki ink as well, or any other kind of like colored cardstock. I think looks really cool. Once I get through the rest of my panel here, I'm going to take out another stamp from Simon Says Stamp, and is a background stamp. It is the CRACKLE background. I don't think it's the reverse. I think it's the other one. I know they came out with two, and I always get them mixed up on which one is which. So I am just going to be using the CRACKLE background to kind of add some more layering and interest to my background. I was really kind of hoping that I had a text background that would work for this. I think there's a couple of thankful or thanks sort of themed background text stamps that I think would look really nice with this design as well. Since I didn't have that, I went ahead and used the CRACKLE background, and again, I think it looks really neat, gives some really cool interest and texture. I kind of like layering different things together. I'm usually not this adventurous when it comes to using my stamps, but I've seen Nicole Sfor do this lots of times, and it always turns out so neat and interesting. So I thought I would give it a try here, and I'm just using some Versamark ink. And you can see I stamped it once, and it didn't really show up a whole lot. So I went through and I stamped it a second time. And once you start heating it up and letting it dry, it really starts to show that watermark effect. And I think it makes a really cool effect on the back of your card. So I went ahead and let that set off to the side to dry completely because I wanted to add a little bit of ink blending around the panel. The panel looks great the way that it is. I think it's a really cool effect I've got going on here, but I wanted to add a little bit more depth and dimension, and I really love adding a little bit of ink blending to card panels. I really think it adds a lot of interest and, again, dimension, and helps things not be so flat. There's nothing wrong with having flat cardstock, and again, you could have totally left this alone and it would have turned out to be a really great card in the end. I personally think that this looks nice. This is, again, all just my personal opinion, and you could totally skip this step. I'm using Vintage Photo and Ground Espresso ink to create some ink blending along the background. I started with the vintage photo and now I'm going in with the ground espresso. These are regular distress inks. You could easily use dye inks or the distress oxide inks as well. I think that would really be a really neat effect. I'm also going to take the darker ground espresso and I'm going to do a little bit of ink splattering. Again, you could totally leave this step out. I think it looks really cool. Kind of looks like a nice distressed piece of cardstock, maybe an older piece of cardstock or something like that. I was kind of going for a really vintage distressed look. I'm going to set that off to the side to dry completely, and I'm going to work on my sentiment. I'm using this Thankful for You die from Simon Says Stamp, and this is a really fun die set that you can use to do inlay die cutting. I really think this is a fun way to add some color to a card, especially around the Thanksgiving holiday. I know we're not quite at Thanksgiving yet, but I really wanted to use this stamp set when I got it in the mail, and I just couldn't help make a thankful Thanksgiving card. I'm starting out with some cardstock colors here. I did a lot of pre-die cutting. I went through my scrap bin and I found lots of colors that I felt would look nice together. I used this same die, I believe last year on a card. I think it was one of my shaker cards I did. I'll link it up here in the iCard. And I just loved how that looked all inlaid together with those beautiful fall colors that I just had to do it again. I started out with some nice brown cardstock. Again, this is just some scraps from my stash. I tried to hold on to as many scraps as I can for all of these kinds of dies. And I'm going to start inlaying these different colors into the Thankful text. And you could do this either way. You could lay tape runner down, double-sided adhesive, anything like that. I usually use double-sided adhesive. I'm not sure why I just got out my multimedia mat here. I'm not sure why I used it. I think it's just because I had it out from another project. And you can just go through and start inlaying all of those colors. I started out using the Desert Storm as kind of my background for these colors. But later on you'll see that I changed it up. I didn't like the craft on craft look. I felt like the colors kind of blended in a little bit too much. So after I get all of this inlaid, I went ahead and die cut a white panel to go over top of this. And it worked out just fine. If you wanted to stack up the colors again so it was a little bit more dimensional, you could totally do that. But it worked out fine for me, and I love the white that I used later on. Just going through and adding in all of those different letters and all of those wonderful fall colors. I really like adding in the purple or the plum color. I really think it goes well with these other fall colors. I think it's a really nice kind of jewel tone, I guess you could say, for fall. It reminds me a lot of the different mums that come out this time of year. I haven't had a chance to go out and purchase any for my porch yet, and I can't wait to get them because I've gotten so many pumpkins out of my garden that I can't wait to decorate my porch with all of those wonderful fall colors and scents. Going to go ahead and inlay this last letter here, and we have this beautiful autumn themed Thankful die cut. I just think it looks so neat. The next thing I wanted to do is I wanted to add a little bit of gold accents to my card. I love adding gold in any way that I can, and I've got these awesome Foundry wax liquids from Tim Holtz, and I think this is a really nice alternative to using embossing powder because it's a little bit quicker to use. Yes, you have to heat it up, but you don't have to worry about spilling messy powder everywhere. It works just as neat and it turns out just as nice as embossing powder. I just think it's a little bit nicer than the powder because you don't have to worry about it, knocking it over or blowing it around all over the place. And I think it's really cool. So I just ran the edge of my little die cut here through that Foundry wax and heated it up. I really think this is a fun organic way to add some gold to any kind of project. Next, I wanted to add some more of that Foundry wax just because I loved it so much, and I'm just going to splatter on the background. And at first, the Foundry wax doesn't look like it does much. You go through and you do all that splattering, and it doesn't really have that shine, and it's not really showing up very well, and it doesn't look very pretty. It's not until you go through and you hit it with your heat gun that it really shines. And I think this is a really cool product. I've got a lot of ideas for this that I think will be fun for the holidays. Lots and lots of ideas. I haven't tried the bronze color yet. I think that would be really pretty for fall too. You can see here that once you hit it with that heat gun, that gold shine really pops. And I just love the way that it looks on top of this craft cardstock. I love gold and craft together. They're probably my favorite color combinations. And I do apologize for my voice being a little bit raspy. I do have a tiny bit of a cold, but I'm feeling pretty good, just a little hoarse. So hopefully I don't lose my voice altogether, because I've got lots of cards and lots of videos I need to get voiceovered and out on the channel for you all. Here you can see that I decided that I didn't quite like the craft on craft look, so I went ahead and die cut that Thankful die again out of some white cardstock, and I'm just going to overlay it right over top of what I did before. Going to use that same multimedia matte adhesive and adhere that down, and I really think it helps those colors pop off of that brown cardstock. I felt like they just kind of blended in a little bit too much, and they didn't really shine the way that I wanted them to. And I do apologize if my head gets in the way here. I just wanted to make sure I got it all nice and lined up. I even saved the center out of the A so that it matched as well. And I was just trying to clean up some of those little fuzzies that you get when you die cut sometimes, from where the cardstock kind of frays a little bit. So the best way I figured out how to do that is just kind of rub the die cut really well, and that helps get those little fuzzies off. Get that center part of that A adhered there, and I think that looks so much better, and it really pops off the page. Next, I'm going to go through and I'm going to work on my secondary greeting. I'm going to be using that stamp set again, the Sassy Thankful stamp set, and I just love all of these really cheeky Thanksgiving greetings. There are so many truly funny ones in here that I think anybody can relate to and would enjoy seeing on a card. I know exactly who this card is going to go to this year, and I'm so excited for them to get it. They will get a definite kick out of it. So I decided to use the greeting that says, "For elastic waistbands." I'm sure we can all relate to the Thanksgiving holiday that we celebrate here in the States. And I know that they celebrate it in Canada as well. It's just a little bit earlier in the year. But we definitely love Thanksgiving here, and all the turkey and all of the fun goodies that you get with Thanksgiving. I'm more of the dessert person in my family. I love to create all of the wonderful fall desserts. So I'm super excited to get into my baking. Once I had that all heat embossed with some Brutus Monroe Alabaster White embossing powder, I'm going to cut it out with one of my little banner dies here. If you don't have banner dies, you can easily just use a paper trimmer or a pair of scissors to cut this out. I'm just going to run it through my die cutting machine because I always end up cutting things a little bit crooked, so I decided to use my banner die here. Once I have that all cut out, I'm going to get that adhered to the front of my card as well. And then we can get our card base ready. I'm going to choose another one of the fun little kind of snarky sentiments from this set that says "Happy Napsgiving." And I think that is so true as well, because turkey makes you sleepy. I'm not sure if that is a scientific fact or not, but it sure does happen at our house that almost, I'd say about an hour after everybody's done eating, you've got a few people snoring on the couch. So I really love that this greeting is in this stamp set because it is so true. I thought about using that little turkey again on the inside of the card, but I just couldn't find a fun spot to put him, so I just decided to go ahead and use the simple greeting. I'm going to stamp it down on the inside using that same khaki ink, just so it matches on the inside to the outside. And I'm using a top folding A2 size card base, and this is out of some Simon Says 110 pound cardstock. And because this was a new stamp, I decided to stamp it off first just to make sure that I had a really nice impression. Now that I have my card base and all my elements ready to go, I can assemble this fun card. I'm just going to adhere this background panel down nice and flat. I'm just using some Lawn Fawn liquid glue. And I love the white border around this card. It really helps bring in the white from the greetings. I really think it kind of balances out everything. I'm going to pop up my greeting using some scrapbook adhesive 3D foam squares. I probably could have got away with just using some 3M foam tape or used less foam squares. I don't know what I was thinking here. I went foam square crazy on this. I'm not sure what I was doing. I think maybe my cold's starting to get to me. But anyway, I went ahead and used those foam squares and adhere it down to my panel. This is going to be the only dimension that's on this card. I thought about adding some sequins and things like that, but I felt like the shine from the back of the card from that Foundry wax and around my greeting was just enough shine to make this card stand out. Going to use my T-square ruler to help me get this nice and lined up. Because this is the main kind of object on the front of the card, I wanted to make sure that it was nice and straight and even. Going to adhere my secondary greeting down nice and flat to my card panel using that same liquid glue. Kind of get that tucked up underneath that greeting. So it says, "Thankful for elastic waistbands." I just think that it's so fun. Next, I wanted to add a little bit of interest to my die cut greeting here, and I'm just going in with my Nuvo shimmer pen and adding some shine to the letters on the inside. You can never go wrong with a little bit more shimmer. I felt like this was a nice touch to this because it's not super kind of glittery. It's nice and subtle on these smaller images. And the next thing I wanted to do is I think I saw Nicole do this, and I think it's really fun. I've seen a few other crafters do this, is where they take glossy accents and they go over top of die cuts, and it almost makes them look like an enamel kind of pin or kind of just something that kind of has like enamel on it, which I think is really cool. So that's what I decided to do here, and I think I need to get a new bottle for mine because it's kind of all clogged up and a little bit kind of like not nice. So the liquid doesn't come out very even. So it kind of looks kind of awful right here. But once it dried completely, it looks fine. I was really concerned that I totally messed this up because my glossy accents wasn't coming out very nice. But once I gave it an opportunity to dry and I kind of cleaned up my edges a little bit with this little pick tool here, it worked out just fine. And again, these are totally optional steps. And that will finish up this card for today. I really hope you enjoyed this fun, thankful card featuring some new products from Simon Says Stamps Stamptember release. If you like this video, please consider hitting the like button to let YouTube know that you're enjoying the content. And if you don't want to miss out on any more videos here at my YouTube channel, please consider hitting the subscribe as well as the little notification bell so you're notified every time I upload a video. I appreciate you stopping by my channel today, and I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll catch up with you guys again real soon. Bye! On screen, I've got a few videos that I think you'll enjoy. Consider hitting the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any more videos at my YouTube channel.